Welcome to another discussion of A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones here on my channel, James Johnson. This is my beautiful mother, LaDonna. We've read the first 5 books and seen the first all the way up to Season 5, Episode 8, which was Hardhome. And in this particular video, and we talk about spoilers and predictions, so if you don't want those. But this particular video, my mom has pointed out that I haven't been particularly clear on what my opinion on the Whitewalkers' origin is. So I'm going to try to explain that in short, and she's going to make sure I try to clarify everything and stay relatively on topic. So, to me, the White Walkers are humans. They didn't exist prior to humans being in Westeros. If you read the World of Ice and Fire, it's talking about the time before First Men, then it's talking about the First Men, then it talks about the Age of Heroes, which is a time in which the First Men started claiming territory, building houses, and basically becoming kings in and of themselves in small areas, what seemed to them to be large areas, I'm sure, at the time. Then, immediately after the Age of Heroes, you get the Long Night, which was won by the Night's Watch at the very end, which was created for the purpose of fighting them. Later on, you get the Wall. But immediately after the Long Night, you get the Valyrian chapter. So, it is my opinion that when the First Men made the pact of the God's Eye, they ended up wedding their households with children of the forest and humans. And that sort of sexual relationship between children of the forest and humans happened a lot around that time. And as a result, humans, for the first time, gained the kind of warging ability that children of the forest have. And green seeing. So, as a result of the Age of Heroes that came immediately afterwards, it was the people who had more capability, more intelligence, more strength, and more warging who ended up in control of these territories. And the lesser houses died, the stronger survived, and eventually the humans who can warg really strongly end up in charge. It's Calvin. It's okay. So, as a result, eventually, of all these warging abilities getting stronger and stronger, a person is born who can warg so strongly that they can warg, skin change the dead, necromancy. And to me, the White Walker idea is them infecting somebody. It's like a mental and physical infection of someone comparable to mitochondria. And that was the Long Night, and the Long Night happened, and whatever creature was doing it lost and died. And since his mind was gone, the war was over, but the White Walkers that had been created still existed. The necromancy is gone, but the White Walker creature still existed. And as happens, and Martin is even quoted in an article my mom and I read recently talking about how the discussion of rape is important in our culture because it's important not to deny it, and he especially pointed out that rape during wartime is a huge issue. Well, if they had won the battle against the Long Night, if there were female White Walkers, it's possible for the humans to have mated with them, raped them, basically, and ended up with these half-breeds who were probably ostracized for a long time, and they would have had combined characteristics: light skin, light hair, humanoid, not really White Walker, and over time they developed their own special characteristics: purple eyes, silvery blonde hair, and because they were so ostracized, some left the above the wall, what was eventually above the wall, and ended up in Valyria, creating Valyrians, and that's why it's immediately after the Long Night. That could have happened in 200 years. So the White Walkers are comparable to mitochondria in the sense that it is an infection that can be argued as a good thing, or it can be argued as a bad thing. It makes you better. Mitochondria are the things inside our body that create the proteins, I believe, is my understanding. They take amino acids, combine them, and make proteins.
And it was a virus that
make
merged.
ATP.
It merged with human beings. We actually merged with it, correct?
Correct. Mitochondria infected us, particularly one female. And the reason it had to be a female, the reason that's important is because when male sperm and female egg combine, sperm only has DNA in it for the most part, whereas the egg has DNA and all the things necessary in the cell for the cell to survive, including mitochondria, which has its own DNA. So
like a separate entity.
Which is why when they test DNA, they can test the main DNA of a cell to find both parental lineages, and they can test the mitochondrial DNA to test only the female lineages continuing back. mitochondrial DNA. So the idea is there was originally one female infected with mitochondria, and yes, we all ended up with it, but the fact that we all ended up with it means that every single human that had no mitochondria died. That species, that separate species, if you want to argue it is,
or early human,
that so died out. So in the same way, that's kind of what the Night King is doing. I'm not going to get too much into it, but the idea that if only White Walkers survived, even without a head, if only White Walkers survived, it'd be like only humans with mitochondria surviving. But the fact that there's a war. So what needs clarification?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are really confused about it, and I know this is still theory, but this makes sense. Everything on this planet is human except the pure-blood children of the forest. Martin has said they are not human. He said they are not human. Now, I think humans...
And the giants.
Arguably the giants.
Yeah.
But let's leave them out for the moment. Martin has said children of the forest are not human. And I think, we've done a video on it, but I think if you reread the chapters on it, you'll see they're more lizard-like people. But they interbred with human beings at the Pact because they joined their houses. And that, again, is what James has said. That's where they got the warging and the green seeing. But everything else...
And the Stark household, in our opinion.
And the Stark household.
That was the Starks being created.
Yeah, and that's a very strong... say genetically dominant way of surviving. It helped them survive. But everything else is human. Okay? So don't get confused by thinking the White Walkers are something really, really, really different.
They are different.
They're different.
But they're still humans.
But they're human.
And my mom and I were talking about this on the porch, and I had an issue with calling them humans because we're humans. We call ourselves Homo sapiens, and it's popularly said that the Neanderthals died out. Even now, knowing that almost all humans, and that's not true, not all humans, but European humans and Caucasian humans have Neanderthal DNA and more humans other than that. So the idea that Neanderthals have died out is not really true. They didn't die out the same way the Denisovans didn't die out. We still have a part of all of them. So when we say the Neanderthals died out, when we say that they are human, I have an issue with that because they are human, but they also have children of the forest in them, so that sometimes gets confused.
Well, not Neanderthals. But,
no.
But you know, recently there have been a lot of articles saying that Neanderthals absolutely interbred with other people. They've proven it genetically. So
it's about 80-something Neanderthals is the opinion, that about 80 Neanderthals DNA still survive.
So and they've shown that we interbred with them while the lines were evolving. So the Neanderthals didn't all die. But the bottom line of this is, don't get confused. The White Walkers are human beings.
In our opinion.
Now, another thing is, people don't understand the differences. I'm still kind of surprised after the videos we've done, not to insult anybody, because it's
no, it's just clarification. We don't even need to do that. It's just clarification in our opinions.
Would you get him a bone knife?
Absolutely.
Say this one thing. If we have to look at it like three tiers, you've got the Night King, who is the head. You've got the White Walkers that are his, I'm going to call them military commanders. He's bred them in the show from Craster's children and inoculated them. You saw that. Perhaps with that vaccine or virus we've talked about. Not vaccine, virus. But underneath them are the Whites, W-I-G-H-T-S. Three tiers, Night King, White Walkers, Whites. The Whites are the resurrected dead. Now, some of them are resurrected when they've been dead a long time. You see bones and things, or perhaps they were resurrected and they've worn away, one way or the other. But all of that third tier are human beings who have simply been resurrected. So don't get confused over that. But I do want to say, bottom line, other than the children, the pure children of the forest,
and the pure giants.
The pure giants. Everything else is what we consider human. So don't get confused over that. It's complicated, but we're trying to streamline it a little bit for you. Cool?
Yep, and I'd like to add a couple more things since we've pretty much handled that. The idea of the White Walkers being an infection, I think that Martin's playing on it literally through showing diseases in this before we find out that that's really what it is, that it's like this infection. He's also comparing it to religion as he appears to be a humanist atheist. he's saying religion is kind of like a virus. It spreads. It's one person to another, and the fact that we got the child that was infected, that's like a baptism. It's a baby who doesn't know that it has a choice that buys into this because it's forced mentally to do it. But I think what's important to point out there is the way that Martin has bridged the infection being a physical thing. It changes you, but it's also a mental thing. It's the fact that it's been imposed upon you mentally. That he touches him, and the Night's King, and you wonder whether he's just infecting them from his body over. But it's also a mental thing, the idea that he's now a thrall, kind of. There's also a possibility that the Night's King is able to necromancy and control so many people because he has other skin changers under his warding, and that creates a hierarchy. And I don't think necessarily that all the White Walkers are that, because I don't think Craster could work, and necessarily his children can. So I think that's important to point
But he is a godly man.
I am a godly man. That's what he meant. Whatever.
Here are my children.
Yep.
Make them what you will. Okay, I think that's it. Just a clarification. 3 tiers: Night's King, White Walkers, and Whites right now in our world.
And the others are the White Walkers and the Night's King. And the great other is both the Night's King and this invisible force, this idea that whatever, if there is a God, he's sanctified the Night's King as the chosen one.
And giving him this alchemy to resurrect.
Either because he's got the power, or he was given the power because he's chosen.
Or it's evolutionary.
And if that is the great other, this non-existent thing, then or never seen, never known, never evidenced thing.
The unknown.
The unknowable. Then it's also Odin. Odin is a personification of both Jesus and God. I'm getting too complicated.
Yes,
I'm going to go ahead and do it. Odin there's Wotan, who is the all God. He is everything, and everything is him, but you can't know anything about him. The idea that his name is Wotan is even in the mythology treated as a human's naming him, not his true name, because we can't know his true name. Odin came from Wotan. He's such a silly dog. Odin, the humanoid godly figure, the king of gods, came from Wotan, but we can't know why or how or anything like that. So he is the son of the All-Father, but also the All-Father. He is the All-Father, and that's like Jesus. Jesus is God, and he's the Son of God.
Yeah, and it's a personification of, the Holy Trinity with, and the 7 with all of this are personifications, which mean you take a concept and bring it down to an icon you can see on Earth. Father, mother, You're not going to see any gods per se in this. There are no gods. It's a metaphysical concept like the universe or nature, okay? So I think that's it.
Yep.
Hang in there. We're going to see a whole lot pretty soon. And if you don't get that pillow out of his mouth.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank y'all.